one thing, that when you're on your deathbed, let's say when you're 80 or 90, would you regret these choices? Let's say right now, if you're in your late 20s, early 30s, whatever your age is, looking back at your life, just remember that when you were 16, let's say if you've come till 35, 36, in these 20 years, if I go back to that child of 16 and I show him or her that this is the next 20 years, that is how you live your life, would you be happy with it, or would there be a sense of regret? Yo guys, namaskaram. So, a woman had reached out to me on Instagram sharing her problem. So, just to respect her privacy, I'll talk on it briefly. But I think we can just have a lot of learnings from it. Because fundamentally, the problem was around emotional validation and not having an emotional anchor of sorts in life. So, just to give a little bit context, I talk a lot about building your own hobbies and things like that, and just having your own purpose, a rhythm, a sort of cadence to your own life. But then the problem comes as some people are oppressed, or some people enter into bad relationships in weird ways, and then they tie their self worth to the validation that they receive from that partner, due to which they just end up trading on a lot of big decisions in their own life. So, just to give you all a little bit of context, the message was whenever any new project comes, I feel overwhelmed. So, I don't know how to channel that energy and things like that. So, I thought interesting because a lot of us make these decisions, and see, the cost of a decision in the long term is for you to bear only. But anyhow, I had just written down some notes and probably I'll just keep on referring to them as well. So, see, what happens is there are certain situations that might have happened in your own life wherein you lost control. Now, what do I mean by losing control? Let's say you wanted to excel in a project, or you tried your hand in a different project, in a new endeavor when you were a child, when you were in school, or in any phase wherein you just felt vulnerable sharing a piece of your heart. But then what happened when you started showing it to the people you love, to the public at large? Let's say by public here, I mean your schoolmates, a couple of friends. You received backlash from them, and you internalized that message of humiliation deep in your heart that I cannot do this anymore. I cannot do anything alone. All the decisions that I take would just lead me to a place wherein I'll just end up hurting my own self or maybe the people I love. Slowly and steadily, we start going into these cocoons wherein just making mistakes in life is seen as a very, very big thing. And what happens eventually is that we just stop making mistakes altogether and we just start living in this weird comfort of sorts in life that, okay, everything is going well. What's the need to just challenge myself? Take out any new endeavors and things like that. But that is not how a lot of people who live their life fully. I'm not talking about social success and things like that. It's just about coming to a place of inner fulfillment. So, could be anything. Like, you can just write down in the comment section that what all incidents you have had in life. You wanted to try something and then people critiqued you, and then you just have taken the steady path from then and there. So, my first question to all of you is, why do you fear making mistakes so much? Mistakes are part of a life. We are not gods. We are not these perfect beings who would just walk, talk, breathe like a perfect god. All of us are Homo sapiens, aka people who have just risen from the mud and will go down back into the mud. Instead of giving people so much power, understand that every one of us is imperfect. How does the judgment of an imperfect man or woman will determine what would the course of my life will be from, let's say, relationship angle? What happens is, because we have so much of self-worth issues, we want someone to validate our decisions and the type of cinema and content which we consume, because a lot of content they need to show these weird sexual scenes so that they can just keep you hooked onto their useless art. But anyhow, what our cinema teaches us that this emotional dependence, this broken heart is seen as a bloody virtue. The more you sacrifice, the more good of a partner you will be. Love is this sort of weird codependence on each other to fix traumas. Please understand that true love, if anything of that sort exists, is when emotionally you're not codependent on each other, but working on your own unique blossoming of potential. Because what happens in codependence is you go into patterns of people pleasing, over giving, over explaining, having a sort of fear around conflict. Because all of these issues come from you being abandoned, like you were back in the day when you wanted to, let's say, show that art. So all of these things are like very much dependent. The solution lies in your own life, which I'll come to later. But anyhow, when we go into these cycles, we tie our self-worth so much to the validation that, see, there are two tangents to this. One is, I add the word in quotes, if you are healthily developed from an emotional perspective, your approach in life would be that I can feel okay without approval. I'll be totally comfortable in my own skin and would pursue the things that I want without having any Tom, Dick, and Harry on the street approve of my being and whatnot. Whereas if you're emotionally dependent, you'll only feel okay when others approve you. There would be a sense of relief that, oh, now he or she has approved me and things like that. So you always need someone to reassure that you're doing well in life. Instead of being a dependent slave of others, why don't you become a slave of your own being if you love slavery so much? Because at least you'll not betray yourself that much as compared to when you are living for others. Of course, not a lot of us live honestly, we lack inner honesty. But then the ratio of, like, when you're living for others versus when you're just living as a slave to your own self, higher self, is much less. Now comes the solution part of it. See, first of all, we need to understand that we need to train our brain, or the muscle in our brain, to be okay with who we are as a person. Removing this fear that, oh, I'll be alone, I'll be lonely in this journey of life. Aloneness does not mean death. Often it's an opportunity to build something great, and in the long term, just connect with people who would vibe with you on that level, or who would just connect with your deeper heart. But all of it is thrown out when you start living for other people. Now another thing that might come is, let's say, when you start working on any project, start going to the gym, you fear the immediate consequence that people would judge you, or there would be like so much emotional mess, who would fix me, or who would be my anchor, and all of those things. Please don't fear the immediate consequence. Just think about one thing, that when you're on your deathbed, let's say when you're 80 or 90, would you regret these choices? Let's say right now, if you're in your late 20s, early 30s, whatever your age is, looking back at your life, just remember that when you were 16, let's say if you've come till 35, 36, in these 20 years, if I go back to that child of 16 and I show him or her that this is the next 20 years, that is how you live your life, would you be happy with it, or would there be a sense of regret? So I think a similar exercise needs to be done. And take a pen and paper. Writing is very therapeutic because it just invokes the primitive part of our brains wherein we are just using our senses and connecting to our deeper thoughts and those sorts of things. So anyhow, because the idea is that once you start training your muscle, you'll start rewiring your brain to just not fear immediate consequences so much. So the time that you're alone should be spent on regulating your emotions, which will come through some basic activities. One is this pen and paper thing. Secondly is just writing down whatever interests you might be having, and start having a little bit of faith on the universe that you can pull through. Let's say if you want to go to the gym or anything for that matter, don't aim for perfect workouts that I'll have so many reps and whatnot. Just aim for 10 minutes of imperfection, because over a week that would be 70 minutes of workout rather than being on a zero sum game altogether. We need to cultivate this belief within our being that things won't be tough. We just need to relearn the confidence that we had back in the day when we were a child. So I was reading one thing lately. There was an experiment conducted wherein some people went to the kindergarten children and they asked that how many of you can sing, and every one of them raised their hands. And once they entered their teenage, one or two only raised up their hand, rest all just did not. So what does this teach us? That they picked up the filth and the insecurities of the environment that was around them. The idea is to not lose that innocence with which you come in this world. Sometimes it's not about adding a lot of things, but just unlearning a lot of things, removing a lot of falseness and bondages. The next thing is that to become, let's say, quote unquote, a healthy adult from an emotional perspective, you need to be self dependent on soothing your own self and sitting with your own discomfort, processing your emotions internally, because then that would make you attractive from a long term perspective, identifying your bondages and then just start breaking them one by one. Sometimes a lot of our problems are hiding in this vague sort of foggy thing. Go specific, because then it reduces anxiety. Just to help you with an example, let's say if you're running a business or anything for that matter, you know that your business is failing. So if you need to increase your business, you'll first ask, okay, what efforts or steps do I need to take? How many reach outs do I need to do if I need to increase my sales? What specific actions do I need to do to increase my revenue? Do I need more resources, more time, more energy, or what it is? And then you start taking appropriate actions. So, see, our emotions are just a weird balance of chemicals. A lot of doctors prescribe you different pills to regulate your mood. It's just about sitting with yourself silently, because emotions are like a wave. But from the long term, the more stability we get in life, the more it helps us live a life wherein we can just do whatever is expected out of us, or at least we expect from our own selves in any situation. Sometimes just having that emotional dependence first by writing out things is very important. And yeah, one more thing. So, if you are into this habit of overworrying and one has had certain breakups, certain emotions wherein they're just hard to process, pick out a specific chunk of your time. It could be any 30 minutes, and then just say that, okay, in these 30 minutes, I'll worry the shit out of the entire world. But once those 30 minutes are over, I'll then again worry the next day. Not now for the entire day. Now I'll just focus on practical things that I need to do to holistically build myself. Because, see, the reality is that time is just slipping like this. This time would never come back, but the opportunity cost, that is you wanting to build a skill, it's just rolling by. So anyhow, those were some of my insights around this. This is like a pretty different video, because on a lot of other videos I just think through a lot of things. These are more like problem solving videos. But anyhow, if you feel that you have any problem, feel free to reach out to me. What do you feel about certain learning, certain insights that you might have had from this video? Feel free to comment. If you feel like having a one-on-one with me just to talk through certain things, if you might be struggling with anything, feel free to just write out an email. Anyhow, I think that would be it for this video. Do write your learnings, comments, observations, and what weaknesses have you broken, what bondages have you challenged. And I'll catch you in the next video. So until then, this is Debu Ki Dastak from Debu Ki Dastak signing off. Cheers, and you stay awesome.